Hello, my name is Jonathan Sparshotz and I'm one of the teachers who teach ancient history at Godalming College. Welcome to the subject first of all. Ancient history is a fantastic course to be considering at Godalming. It sits within the history and politics department at college, and we're hoping it's a brand new subject to lots of students, which is going to offer something new and really interesting for them to study, and also offers loads of opportunities in the future to progress on from Godalming.
My name is Rebecca and I study ancient history. I chose to study ancient history because I'm quite interested in history in general, and it was a sort of a different aspect of history to what's studied in the main history course. So the main history course, it's mostly facts and figures. Ancient history, there's also a whole lot more source analysis, so teaching you how to analyse primary sources, how to work out if a certain primary source is reliable. Several of them are less reliable than they could be, but yeah, so it's teaching sort of the analytical skills which are useful if you then go on to study history at university.
Hi, my name is Samir and I take ancient history at Godalming College. I chose to study ancient history for quite a few reasons, but the main one in my opinion is due to my fascination with the ancient world and the functions of an archaic society. And I was just lucky enough to find a place that takes ancient history because not many colleges actually offer it.
Ancient history at Godalming is based around the study of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Students who study the course look at 2 period study units and 2 depth study units, and these are split across the 2 years of the course. So in the first year of studying ancient history at Godalming, students will look at a course focused on ancient Greece between 492 BC and 404 BC. This is international relations for the ancient world in a way, as we look at the ways in which the Greeks interacted with each other and then also interacted with their superpower neighbour Persia. This course is dominated by 2 major conflicts of the ancient world as well. The Persian Wars between 490 and 479 BC, and then the Peloponnesian Wars, this generational long civil war between the Greek city-states. While studying that, students will also be looking at the Roman period study. This is looking at the first dynasty of emperors in Rome called the Julio-Claudians, and this will get students to look at some names they've probably heard of, famous, infamous in cases names, starting with Augustus, the founder of this dynasty, looking at his successor Tiberius, Gaius, who's better known as Caligula, Emperor Claudius, and then finally Emperor Nero. This course really focuses on the way that these individuals ruled Rome, their relationships with key figures and key groups in Rome and the empire. But this course also looks at the characters of these emperors, who they were as individuals, their strengths, their peculiarities, and how this affected the running of what was then the largest empire in the world. In the second year, students then move on to look at 2 depth studies. The idea here is that they'll look at less chronologically, but they're going to go into more detail with these areas. So on the Greek side of the course, students will look at a topic called the culture and politics of Athens. Here we are focusing on the dominant city-state in the Greek world in the 5th century, the 400s BC. This is a really broad course though. We look at Athens in lots of different ways, looking at its democracy. Democracy is born in Athens in this period in the middle of the 5th century. We also look at its society, how different groups had different rights in Athens. But we then broaden out to look at its culture, we look at its religion, we look at its architecture, we look at this birth of new thinking in Athens at this time, which saw some great names like Socrates rise to prominence and really shape the way the ancient world thought about itself. And then finally on this course, we also look at Athenian religion and how the Athenians understood the world around them. Alongside that, students will also be studying a depth study on Roman Britain between 43 and 128. This course focuses on the reasons why the Romans wanted to invade Britain, how they managed to do this, the successes of the Roman invasion, and then it looks at how the Romans interacted with the native Celtic Britons that they met there. Sometimes very peacefully, as they formed client relationships and began to work together, but often quite violently. And here is where we look at some of the most famous events of our course, things like the Boudiccan Revolt and how this almost overthrew Roman power in Britain. Those are the 4 units that we study in ancient history, and they're put together into 1 Greek exam that students take at the end of their 2 years and 1 Roman exam which students take at the end of their 2 years.
I think my favourite bit about the course, I think I quite enjoy the Rome side of the course, particularly Roman Britain, because I've been to quite a lot of the different sites in the UK, so Vindolanda Villa up in the Northumbria, Hadrian's Wall, Colchester, and it's quite interesting to learn about why they're there, first of all, and what role they played in the Roman conquest.
I personally like the course because it's split up into two sections, the Roman and the Greek side of the course. These are both really influential civilizations in my opinion, and my favourite part of the course is actually learning about ancient Athenian democracy, as a lot of it parallels to what we do in the real world. If you think about the parliamentary election system or the voting system or even jury service, all of these sort of date back to what the implements of individuals in ancient Athens did thousands of years ago, and it sort of like connects us, which I find really fascinating. On top of that, there are many transferable skills offered from taking ancient history, and a few off the top of my head is just essay writing, forming an argument, as well as analytical skills. And these have helped me a lot with my A-levels because I also do English literature and geography. But I also think these can be transferable to any other A-levels or even BTECs that you take. And even into university, it just doesn't have to be history. All of these skills can go into doing a degree in business, for example, or sociology.
One of the most common questions we get asked at Open Evening around ancient history is whether students need to have studied any ancient history or classics in the past to take the subject. And the good news here is absolutely not. We encourage students without any background in this subject or prior knowledge to consider it. It's a brilliant subject that students can pick up fresh and then really run with during their time at college. The thing that makes ancient history unique is that we spend a lot of time in lessons discussing and analysing ancient sources. This will be written work, so from some of the most famous historians that have ever written, people like Herodotus, the father of history. But students will also be looking at a range of source material, including archaeological sources, building plans, statues, architecture more generally, down to coinage, inscriptions, and then some more literary sources as well, things like plays and comedies. Another unique feature of ancient history is that we do a lot of work around historical debates where we discuss how the past has been interpreted. And an average lesson in ancient history will see students discussing ideas with their peers, with their teacher, using their knowledge of the period and the sources to start making arguments and then supporting those arguments.
So the teachers are very helpful, they're very nice, they're friendly, they're always, they want you to get the best out of the course. They're all very helpful. I've been taught by the entire history department bar 2 people, because I also do history. They're very good at providing feedback on practice essays and doing it very quickly as well. I've sometimes handed an essay in class and then by the end of the lesson had the essay handed back to me with a list of points, which is quite useful during revision. And yeah, it's a well-organised course.
From my time studying ancient history at Godalming College, I found the teachers to be nothing but amazing. Each lesson is so interesting and engaging, and they do this by giving us a variety of different activities to ensure we understand the content to the best we can. And each lesson's atmosphere is just amazing. Everyone's shooting their hand up when the teacher's asking a question. Everybody just wants to learn more. And the teachers even give us like further reading tasks just to ensure that we've understood the content to a deeper extent that we actually need to for the exams.
Ancient history is a great subject in terms of progression, and there are loads of options that are open to students when they move on from the course. Ancient history as a degree is offered almost everywhere, in fact, and it's a really well-trodden path to get into that area. So we have lots of students who move on to take very successful degrees there. Students also move on to do things like archaeology at university, and a number will also move on to do history or English or law degrees as a next step on from Godalming. The beauty of ancient history is that even if you're not using the content directly, the skills it teaches you, things like research, analysis, creating structured arguments, listening to the ideas of others and responding to them, are all really sought after skills that will equip students, whether they go to university, into an apprenticeship or straight into employment. So we have loads of success, and students who do ancient history tend to find their next steps on from college quite straightforward.
After college, I'm hoping to go on to university to study history.
I'm personally going to university to study ancient history, and I want to pursue a career in the law path, and all of these skills I've obtained from studying ancient history at Godalming College will certainly help me. I also think that for anyone who's really interested in the ancient world, as well as just wanting to improve your skills generally, should take ancient history at Godalming College.
So I hope that's answered any questions you may have had about ancient history, and I'm delighted to see that you're interested in the course. If that sounds like something you might be interested in taking, then do have a look at the information on the website, and hope to see you at an open evening and in the future in one of our lessons.